You and I have been together this is our 4th SEC Media Days that's coming up this year. Is that right? Your daughter's about to turn 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, that marks. That's how we can keep up with it.
Okay.
Each of the last 3 years, you have asked me the question, hey, what are the storylines going to be going into SEC Media Days? We've kind of kicked that around a little bit. I'll throw a couple of teams at you, and you tell me what you think the storylines are surrounding specific teams. And maybe it's not just for Media Days, but what's going to be the prevailing line of questioning when Auburn has their turn at Media Days?
Yeah, I would think that it would be obviously Jeremy Johnson, having not played very much, replacing Nick Marshall, and already has a ton of expectations on his shoulders. He's in the Heisman odds.
10-1.
Yeah. And so either somebody knows something the rest of us don't, or are very confident in going out on a limb on him before he's really been tested very much, and certainly hasn't been tested on the road in the SEC, which I can tell you, again, that is the true test for any quarterback, because I've been there in the SEC, at home, on the road, backup, and as starter. It's just an entirely different proposition handling the offense in every single play, and you are the guy at the helm, versus you're the backup, we'll just call on you if we need you. Okay? It's a lot easier to be the backup, I'm just telling you. And so you got to go prove it.
Similar conversation going into last year about Dak Prescott, wasn't there? Although Dak had a little bit more experience in the year prior.
Yes.
But not a ton more.
He had more snaps, and it actually started games going into last year.
Well, Johnson's got, one start?
Yeah.
Started one game.
Yeah, but that was the thing. You're right. There's some similarities there. You actually have a pretty decent group of quarterbacks who will be at SEC Media Days. When you look at it closely, Dak, Johnson at Auburn will be there.
Matty Mock.
Mock from Missouri, Dobbs from Tennessee will be there. Brandon Allen from Arkansas is going. You look up, and Allen, he wasn't asked to be a Heisman-winning great quarterback in that offense, but he did it pretty well. He managed it pretty well last year, and he got healthy. 20 touchdowns or whatever, 21, 22, 20 touchdowns, somewhere in that range, and only threw 5 interceptions all year long. Okay? That's pretty doggone good efficiency.
4-1, yeah.
And
especially with the running game that they have.
Yeah, 2 1,000-yard rushers. And you got 3 of the top 4 receivers back at Arkansas. I had a little back and forth, not an argument at all, but it was just a little bit of an exchanging of different viewpoints on Twitter with Cole Kubelik, former Auburn offensive lineman, does some analyst work, has his show over in Alabama. You had him on last week when I was out.
Right.
Because I'd said on Twitter that I felt like Ole Miss leaving Treadwell at home was the equivalent if Mississippi State decided to leave Dak Prescott at home from SEC Media Days in his last opportunity to go. Now, sure, Dak has been there before to Media Days, but still, you're talking about a top 5 star in the league, and he's not there. It's last opportunity to go. Treadwell, he's absolutely – and to me, one of the biggest individual stories in the SEC is Treadwell coming back from that injury and what he means to this team. Top 5 pick as an underclassman. Top 10 first-round pick, sure, as an underclassman, and he's not there. And I was just saying, I'm confused about that. He's the only wide receiver in the country in the Heisman odds, and he's not going? And so I'm just saying, as a media person, I'm disappointed in that. Personally, I don't give a flip if he's there or not. I'm just saying, we're going to do a radio show. What if you were a writer and you cover Ole Miss? That might be your big storylines, but now you're going to get the quotes from somebody else other than him. I thought that's what Media Days is for. Anyway, I'm giving you some insight to some of the thinking as to, and then Cole said, look, maybe it's just not his thing. Maybe, and then I responded, well, I'm sure that most of the players who go doing interviews in July is, quote, not their thing, but they go, especially the star power. Okay, he says, well, only Nick Chubb isn't going. There's other stars who aren't there. I just thought that over the years, the top 4 or 5 players in the league, they go to Media Days whether they want to go or not. Now, every coach and every school is going to have a different set of, whatever criteria for how they decide who's going and why. And it could be something as simple as he didn't want to do it, or he's got a conflict maybe that's what it is. But to say it's not a huge disappointment that he's not there, it is a huge disappointment that Treadwell's, because he's going pro after this year. He doesn't have another opportunity to go to media days.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that. And I think most people would tell you, hey, Ole Miss, who do you want there? Well, that's one of the guys that you want there. But your point at the end is a good one as to, what's the reason? Is it because he doesn't want to go? Is there a conflict? Is Hugh Freeze using this as a reward for others for something? Is it, whole body of work? Maybe that's the reason Mike Hilton's going. Because Mike Hilton's kind of flown under the radar on the defensive side. He's been a pretty valuable player for Ole Miss. But I agree with you. Because, the thing, I had a conversation, mentioned him earlier, Neil McCready, about this. And he said, I think he was making the point that if you want every guy that's there from a national media standpoint that covers college football to write a story about Ole Miss, then those are the guys you send. Somebody sent me a text message yesterday, and I agree with this. You've got the potential for 4 first-team All-Americans on the Ole Miss football team, and none of them are going to be at media day.
Well, say 4 draft picks. See, I think that carries more weight. You can say All-Americans, but I think, everyday fan, especially in July, All-American, Schmall American. But you tell me 4 first-round draft picks?
Okay.
Now we're really talking about some weight. We on one team, potentially 4 first-rounders in the same draft. It may be the biggest story in the country come April, and not a one of them is there.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it was smart. I don't think it was a good idea. If Laquan Treadwell, if he didn't have something already major on his schedule that is a conflict with media days, then if you're Coach Freeze, you got to go and you got to say, hey, man, I got to have you there. For the program and for the whole fan base and everything, I got to have you there.
Or maybe you're getting a glimpse, not just with Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss, but from some other coaches as to what they really think of media days. They just don't. They think it's something they have to do, not something that they necessarily want or need to do, or something that makes a difference in their program. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see if anything sticks.
Well, and the other thing,
but I don't disagree with you on who you want to be there.
Well, sure. And you got Evan Ingram going, so you already do have an underclassman likely to go early, and on the offensive side of the ball, I get that. He's going. He's the Ole Miss representative of this off the field story that every team is doing this year. Every team has one player representative that's kind of the focus of an off the field story. Dak is the one for state, So, and I understand. Okay, great. And I even commented on Twitter that I'm glad to see Mike Hilton go. Hugely underrated. A leader in tackles on the team and can do anything. Ball of energy. And glad to see him go. I have nothing against C.J. Johnson for Ole Miss at all. Nothing. Got nothing against him. Did a great player. Did a great job with interviews last year at media days. But that's the thing. He was there last year. What is any media member going to get out of C.J. Johnson this year they didn't get out of him last year? And meanwhile, Treadwell, this guy, is sitting at home? I don't understand the philosophy. It's not a big deal in the grand scheme. We're still going to play the games, and who does interviews at media days has no bearing on any outcome. I'm just telling you, here it is, July the 9th. We're going there for 4 days next week. So is the entire country of media. ESPN is going to be doing every show there. It's all going to be crescendoing to Thursday when Alabama's there and Freeze is up there too, and we're not going to have Treadwell. I'm just disappointed. That's all. Ken tweets, Matt, Treadwell's a soft-spoken but unbelievable athlete. As you know, media is not his thing, and he chose not to go. Okay. Well, he better get used to it if he's going to be a first-round draft pick or top 10 and go to the NFL. I got news for you. Mike could have done him a favor then if he's soft-spoken and he says, I don't want to go. You say, no, I know what's best for you. You're going. What was your question again?
Predominant line of questioning for Tennessee when they take the stage at media days.
Handling expectations for them for the first time. And if you wanted to word it harshly, or not harshly, but just very matter-of-factly.
Are you good enough to live up to all this hype?
Say, hey, you haven't done anything. Yet you have people now saying you're going to win the East. What comes first? Baby steps, right? How about you win 7 or 8 games before we start talking about winning 10 or 11? But, I think that's the big thing for them. how do you go from no expectations and you basically are just below average as a team on the field, but because of recruiting classes, now we expect you to win the division?
Head-to-head, Super Talk Mississippi, supertalk.fm with you on this Thursday afternoon, live in Corinth. It's the 28th Annual Slug Burger Festival in the Renaissance Bank Studio. Renaissance Bank, understanding you.
Falling, that she keeps calling me back.